This is the same 90-day plan that I use over and over again to have successful launches and increased revenue within my business. Take a look behind the scenes with me today. Without structure, goals are just dreams. You need to have a structured plan so that you actually know where you are trying to go in order to hit your goals. With a 90-day plan, you can have the confidence to move your business forward with actual tasks and knowing what you need to do, rather than simply checking off a bunch of to-dos that are not connected to the goals that you're trying to reach at all. I personally started using a 90-day plan about 3 to 4 years ago within my business. I would always naturally sit down in the months of October, November, and make an annual plan. But what I kept finding is that the plan was so large and overwhelming. I would create numbers. I would know exactly what I was aiming to hit each month based on revenue, but it didn't have an actual plan of what I was supposed to be doing. Where was I putting my effort into? What projects? And then more importantly, what tasks? I was simply checking off to-do lists and going through the motions, and often doing things that didn't make sense because it wasn't impacting my bottom line. For example, there was a time where I thought that doing Instagram Reels daily was an important part of my plan. In reality, it wasn't connected to where I was trying to go with my business. I didn't need more visibility. I needed to be able to have more momentum and convert the people that were already aware of my business into actual customers and clients. So doing Instagram Reels and attracting an audience wasn't where I needed to be focusing. And I quickly realized that creating a 90-day plan was much more manageable. I didn't get overwhelmed. I knew exactly what 1 to 2 goals I was focusing on, and therefore the projects and tasks that I could measure to make sure that I was actually hitting those goals within those 90 days. Plus, the annual plan that I was making not only felt overwhelming because there were so many numbers that were involved with it without actual projects or tasks, but it was also very overwhelming because I didn't know where I was exactly going to be going. In other words, if I needed to pivot because an algorithm changed, or I was finding that there was actual content that was doing better with my audience and it was what they needed at that time, it was very difficult to pivot. Whereas with a 90-day plan, I have the ability to be able to pivot because I'm looking at smaller numbers and I'm able to see if what I am actually doing through my tasks is impacting the bottom line. So by actually having it be a 90-day plan, the confusion, the overwhelm all went away. We've talked about in the past that a 90-day plan, you need to reflect upon your previous 90 days or your previous year, especially if you're planning right before the new year, which is what I'm hoping you're doing. So if you're looking at planning for 2026 in October, November, December of 2025, I want you to reflect on your 2025. Notice the shifts, notice the things that did really well for your audience. And this is how I started. I knew last year when I was looking at my plan that when I reflected on 2024, that my audience was more engaged and actually saw more conversion when I had hands-on teaching opportunities with them. It wasn't a matter of doing more summits. It was a matter of it being solely me and me being able to take them from a beginning of not being able to do something and having the confidence to do it to the finish, and being able to break that into bite-sized pieces. So when I started planning my 90-day plan for 2025, I knew I wanted to focus on putting more challenges and sprints in place. So for you, for behind the scenes with my business, at that time, I looked at how could I create a 90-day plan that's going to work. I want to be able to get more momentum content going with my audience, and I wanted it to convert into more mastermind clients and attendees for my retreat by the end of the year. So when I looked at planning for the first 90 days of 2025, I knew that I needed to structure it so that I had a 4-day sprint that I was able to put out to my audience by the end of that 90 days. Now, I had done challenges in the past, years ago, but I had never done a 90-day sprint where I wanted them to come in with not knowing how to do something and feel confident to be able to continue to do it. And one of the things I continually heard from my audience was that they were very uncomfortable with selling. No one wanted to sell. So if you're shaking your head going, I hear it, I understand it, you definitely want to make sure that you check out the sprints and challenges that I offer as a bundle. But with this sprint, I was able to really focus on this idea that my clients are not comfortable selling. So therefore, when I looked at what was my goal, it was to get them more comfortable with selling, to be able to put the challenge out to them and to increase revenue, because I was going to make it a paid program. Now, that was step one, choosing that goal. From there, we then had to break down that project. What was it going to look like to put this sprint out there? Well, I needed to start off with the tasks that were going to go with that. And in order to do that, I had to look at deciding what the curriculum was going to look like. How many days was I going to want it to be? What time of day? I needed to schedule it and get it prepared. Now, not only did I have to make sure that it was covered in my calendar, but I also had to make sure that I had a launch runway for it. It couldn't be something that I was going to launch January 1st. There needed to be content that was leading up to it that reminded them that they probably are struggling with sales, that they don't feel comfortable going for the ask, or they've heard crickets when creating their content. So one of the projects that I had to work on was the awareness to turn into momentum for them with content reminding them how uncomfortable they feel with sales. So there were a lot of podcast episodes that came out in January, February that reminded them of this, the struggles that they had with it. Now, from that content, I was then able to continue to build my list, but also it was making them aware that I was going to have a solution for them so that I was able to push them then towards that sprint that we were doing towards the end of the 90 days. Now, in order to get the sprint together, I had to also create the curriculum for it. What were the 4 days going to look like? What was I going to call it? From there, I also had to create a sales page in order for people to purchase. From the sales page, they had to have a funnel that they went into, welcoming them and then letting them know what the sprint was actually going to look like. Now, once we had that portion of it set up, I then had to start thinking about what were the sales process going to look like. I had a sales page, I had the welcome email, but I needed to get people into it. So it then became that conversion marketing that had to come from it next. How was I going to continue to get the word out and get people into it? So there were sales emails that then had to be developed and sent out to my list, scheduled well in advance. So there was plenty of time to get them into the sprint without them trying to check off the calendars and make sure that they were free for it.
Now, throughout this time, it was really important that I made sure that there were metrics in place. I knew that I wanted to get the sprint out there. I wanted to have people signed up for it. I also, of course, at the same time wanted to be growing my email list, which is why we were creating not only awareness content, but momentum content and conversion content. And all of this is where we are taking them so that they can get into that sprint and have the transformation that they're looking for. Now, we've talked about the fact that this isn't something that you can pull out a new product, launch something brand new right out the gate without doing the beginning stages of making sure that you are growing your list, getting your people prepared for it with momentum content, and then converting them to get onto the list. It's not something where you can just decide you're going to do it one day and the next day you launch it. Instead, we made sure that we gave them that launch runway so that they could come in, get the awareness, build it to momentum, and then convert into actual people that were going to be involved with the sprint. Now, the reasoning behind why I wanted to be doing more sprints is a multitude of reasons. The first is that I prefer to teach. I want to be one-on-one with my people. I want to be in group settings. I want to be on a Zoom. I want to be able to break down their businesses and make it personalized for them. So the sprints gave me the opportunity to be able to do that. I also wanted to do the sprints because the sprints are very similar to my insiders membership. As an insider, you're getting weekly trainings that are all within a specific topic, so that throughout that month, you're able to then have that transformation. So from the sprint, I wanted to then have them come in as an insider if they already were not. Now, as part of Insiders membership, I offer a group coaching at the end of the month. So in the sprint, I offered that as a VIP upgrade. Now, one of the things that often happens is I'm always thinking of what would be the next step. And for many of my insiders, next step is a mastermind. They meet in a group of 6 women where 2 are going on the hot seat, and it's very personalized. It's very much getting into their businesses over the course of 6 months. So not only was the idea of the sprint to get them into insiders, but from insiders to then have them be members of mastermind, all giving them this purpose. Now, I wasn't expecting all of this to happen within 90 days. Some people did convert that way. Others, it took a year, and some are still going in insiders and haven't quite made the commitment to mastermind yet. That's okay. It's part of the process. It's part of the customer journey. Where do they need to be met? How can you continue to give them the information that they need so that they can get stronger in their topics that you want them to be stronger in? Now, if you are someone listening and you're going, I need a 90-day plan program, I want to hit the ground running in 2026, we're going to put it into the description so that you can make sure that you grab it. It is not only going to provide you with a workbook that is going to ask you very specific questions about your goals, the projects, and then tasks that need to go into it, but it's also going to walk you through your customer journey, which is one of the most important pieces that most people miss. They assume that they can just go at their person and they are going to sell to them, when in reality, it's difficult to just be a used car salesman. You have to have someone coming into you and trusting who you are, take them along that journey of them seeing the transformation that you can provide. And the 90-day plan program provides that for you. You're going to get 6 modules with 6 different video trainings that really break down the different concepts that you need to have in order to create your 90-day plan. So if you haven't already, jump into the description and make sure you grab it today before the price goes up for 2026.